Children who are in foster care come from various life circumstances, but all of them have experienced abuse or neglect. And for those reasons, they can't safely remain at home. The average age of a child who is in foster care is between the ages of 8 and 11. Minority children are also overrepresented in the foster care system. So we are looking for families who are open to school-age children, sibling groups, and teens as well.
I grew up with my biological mom and my stepfather. We grew up in a very abusive home. My stepfather was physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually abusive towards myself, my younger brother, and my mom. And it became too much. We were removed by CPS after the allegations were made and substantiated. I spent a lot of my high school years moving from foster home to foster homes. The first couple of years, I was like, what did I do to deserve this, right? Or or what could I have done differently? Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have, been more stern and no when I was being abused, or maybe I should have spoke up sooner. So that definitely was a thing for me for the first couple of years, was that I was blaming myself. But again, the support around me was like, this is not your fault. This is not something that you brought on yourself. This was an unfortunate situation. Your parents were not in a good space. There were a lot of different affirming people around me that were like, this is not something that you did or something that you could have done differently. It happened and you came out of it, and now let's try to figure out how to heal from it. But there were a lot of times where I didn't feel motivated, and I didn't feel like I was going to make it out, and I felt like I was going to be another statistic, because that's what people were telling me for pretty much the whole time I was in foster care, was that, you're going to end up pregnant by the time you're 18, you're not going to graduate high school, you'll probably bounce around and not have a lot of support, and that was another driving factor for me. But the families knew that I wanted to do great things, and that I wanted to use my experience in foster care with foster care families in a positive way, in a different purpose. So they supported me in whatever I wanted to do, and they also pushed me when I didn't feel like I had it in me or that I wasn't going to be successful.
Child Protective Services, then, their role is to investigate those situations, to determine if this child is safe at home, to determine whether they can remain safely with some preventative measures in their home, or if they have to be removed from their home. And unfortunately, there are times that they have to make that hard decision to place a child in foster care. And that's where you step in as a foster parent to temporarily care for a child until that child can return home to their parents. The goal of foster care is always reunification. Bethany is determined to help families be strengthened and preserved, because children thrive. I'm going to say that again. Children thrive in their families. So yes, the goal is always reunification, but unfortunately, there are times that children can't return safely. The average length of stay of a child in foster care is 2 to 3 years. Think about that. That's 24 to 36 months that a young child has been away from their family.
I come from a ton of trauma, like most kids that go into the foster care system come from. There's trauma, there's PTSD. And a lot of times parents don't really understand that. They think that this behavioral response is just because it's a behavioral response. But the biggest thing for me that was helpful was that my foster parents were like, okay, I understand that this may be a response to something that you went through, or this may be triggering for you. A lot of times we had those conversations because to them it didn't make sense, but it made more sense once the trauma and everything like that was explained. So intentionality was the biggest thing for me. And now that I've grown and I've realized, for me it was not being able to trust them, and not opening up to them, and engaging with them in the way that I wanted to, because at the time I was still trying to process the person and the people that were put here to take care of me did not. So it was hard for me to open up to another family and say, like, I trust you, because I'm like, well, how am I going to trust you if I couldn't trust the person that gave birth to me? Now that I think back, recognize that I ran from a lot of those relationships that could have been positive, because I was so worried about them leaving, because that's what I was used to. I was used to chaos. I was used to the trauma. I was used to the abuse. I was used to the mistrust, and all of that was normal for me. So when a foster family came along and it's like, here, I'm going to provide you with all these things, I'm like, I don't really know that I should accept that from you. I think what was huge for me was that my foster families never were like, well, your biological family is this or that, or they never badgered or made it seem like I came from like this terrible situation. It was more so, your parents were not in a good space at that time. They're not horrible people. They just made some bad choices. And I want to be able to support you in having a relationship with your family, but still with the understanding that your biological parents are not able to provide the life for you that you need right now or in the future.
A large majority of the children who are in foster care are actually older children. Let's think about that teenager who enters the foster care system. If a family is not identified for them, is at risk of aging out of the foster care system. But what does that aging out of foster care system thing means? That means you're 18 years old and the doors of the foster care system is literally closed to you. Without a family, children who age out of foster care end up incarcerated, on the streets, on drugs. Young moms have more babies that end up back in the foster care system, and the cycle continues.
So I eventually aged out, but navigating the system as an adult who doesn't have the support of an adult is complete chaos. The reality of it is that we need youth and children need parents even more after 18 than they did before, because at 18 is when you're learning how to sign a lease, you're learning how to find a job, how to fill out a job application, how to navigate relationships. And that's kind of where foster families have to step in and say, hey, we got you. Like, we're not going to leave. We're going to be here. We're going to support you. It might get rough more times than not, but I'm here and I'm not leaving. Because for me, that was the biggest thing. And even now as an adult, the biggest thing that you can do for me is tell me that you're not going to leave, or show me that you're not going to leave.
Children who are in foster care have experienced so much loss, pain, and trauma in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. In such a short time in their lives, you can make a difference in the life of a vulnerable child today. If you're ready to take the next step to becoming a foster parent, please visit our website at bethany.org/foster series, or just keep watching this video series to learn more about being a great foster parent.